Hey everyone, Steven here with Lucky Casts, bringing you today another episode from the Crystal Mastery Archives. In this episode, Paul Smith walks us through the basics of requiring files in Crystal. Enjoy!
In the last episode, we built a Crystal project using Crystal init. Now we're going to learn a bit more about how Crystal requires files. If you're used to some languages, you have to import different files whenever you want to use them. Crystal works a bit differently. You require a file once, and once you've required it, the classes and modules and methods inside of that file are available for the rest of the program to use. So right now, we're in our Crystal Play folder from what we generated last time, and we're going to remove some of these comments. So we're not going to have any documentation, and we're not going to use this module. Instead, we're going to use one of our new classes. So I've already created these. We have a greeter, which takes some kind of object that must have a name, and then says hello to it. We have one other class called world that has a name of world. So we're going to make sure when we run our program that we greet the world. So we'll say greeter greet world.new. Now we'll get into exactly how this is working and what self means, but for now we just need to know that we call greeter.greet and give it this object. Now let's run it. Great, this is exactly what we want. We want it to tell us hello world. So how does this file know where to get those objects? In this case, it is using a relative require. You can see that because it starts here with a dot. So it's going to look in the current folder and then look for a folder Crystal Play, which you can see here. And then because of this star, it will import all of the Crystal files and make them available for use. So let's see what happens if we remove that. It doesn't see the greeter. So rather than using this asterisk version, if we wanted to, we can require relative and require every file that we need, like this. This will now work. There's another version of this asterisk that we're going to look now. You can do two of them. What that's going to do is look in nested subfolders. So let's change things around just a bit so you can see what this is doing. Let's go back to 1, so it's only looking one level deep. And we're going to just add a folder. It doesn't really matter what it's called. We're going to move these files into there. And we're now going to see when we try and run our program again, it doesn't know where greeter is. But if we change this to 2 asterisks, it's going to look in nested folders, and it's going to work just as expected. So those are the different ways of requiring a file relative to the file you are currently in. If you wanted to, you could of course go back multiple levels, but we're not going to really go into that. Another part of requiring files is when you want to require external dependencies. So to do that, we first need to declare what dependencies we need in the shard.yaml file. In this case, we're going to try out Lucky Inflector. What this does is it allows you to pluralize and singularize and do a whole bunch of other things with different kinds of words. So we can just copy this from the README. You'll note that shards, which is the command line tool for installing external libraries, uses GitHub for the most part. You can use other Git repositories, but for the most part, shards are on GitHub. You give it the organization name and the repo name. Then you hop over to your command line and do shards install. So now we've installed it. Let's go ahead and use it. So let's pluralize the thing's name. When we go to run this file, we'll see we don't have Lucky Inflector, but we installed it with shards install. So what do? Well, we have a few options. We can require it here in the file by giving it the name of the shard. Now note, we don't have the /. If we did that, it would look in this folder. We leave that off, and it's going to try and look for a shard called Lucky Inflector. If we run it again, it caught a little typo for us. So we do Lucky Inflector. Now we should be good to go. We could have also done this here. Personally, I like to keep all of the require statements in the root file. Some people like to put them in the files that need it. It's really up to you, though. Before we finish up this episode, I want to talk about one of the gotchas with requiring files. We're going to open up the project for Crystal Mastery, so we'll look at our user model. So this looks pretty standard. If we look at our series, episodes, comments, you'll notice that there's a few requires in some of these files, but not in others. Let's look at our app.cr. This is what requires all of our files. If you look here, we're requiring all of the models inside of the models folder. The problem comes when one of our models requires another that is earlier in the alphabet. So, for example, we have a comment here, belongs to an author and an episode. Now, you'll notice the constant is a user and an episode. Both of these come after the comment. So in order to use them, we first have to require the user and the episode in the file. Otherwise, it won't be able to find the constant. Now, Crystal is smart enough to often not need this. But in certain cases, like here in Lucky, we will need to require the file. Now I'll show you what it looks like if we accidentally forget to include one of these. Now we can see it can't find the constant episode. But if we add that require back, our app's going to compile without any trouble. So this is just something to be aware of. If it looks like your constant should exist, Crystal might not be able to find it because it is further down alphabetically. Now, the opposite is true here with user. Since it's the last, it can use pretty much anything it wants. Same with series. It's already loaded the episode, so it doesn't need to require the episode. I hope that helps you figure out how to require things. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions or would like me to clarify anything. Thanks for watching.